Cathy Freeman,
Yes.
welcome to Sportsvibe. Cathy, 4 Commonwealth golds in every event going, sprint relay, 400 relay, 200, 400, 2 world titles, a silver medal in the Olympics, and unforgettably a gold medal in the Olympics. How does that sound to you?
Yeah, no, it sounds pretty good. I like the ring of that. I get so caught up in my day-to-day challenges, I forget about where I've been and why I am the person I am. So thank you for that reminder.
Well, it's not too bad. And I tell you what, Cathy, that's over 12 years. You were winning major championship medals over 12 years.
Yeah, no, time flies and life goes by in the blink of an eye. So no, I'm very happy with the way it's all panned out so far.
Oh, I bet you are. That's not bad at all. Now listen, I'm going to remind you the first time we met, because I tell everybody this story and they all think, wow, this is amazing. And this is when we first met 10 years ago, and I shook hands with you for 2 seconds maybe, and you looked at me and you said, you play guitar. And I said, how do you know that? And you said, because the skin on your fingertips is hard. Now, that, Cathy, is some trick.
Well, it's not a magic trick. It's probably because maybe I was, and there was a point at one stage where I was learning the guitar myself, and my guitar teacher had very hard fingertips. So
yeah, but I shook your hands for 2 seconds.
yeah. Oh look, and sometimes because where we did meet, it was in a gym, right? So, and sometimes when you've got the endorphins rushing, you become a bit more aware, I think.
Now, for those with bad memories, just very briefly talk us through, because there's so many highlights. It began with you lighting the Olympic torch.
It did.
Not many people get the chance to do that.
Yeah, look, it was a huge honour.
Were you worried about getting it wrong, like dropping it, or?
I was worried about either falling up or down the stairs. If you can remember, there were a lot of stairs.
There were.
I was
Dropping the torch, maybe?
Well, with all due respect, I was more concerned about me than the torch.
Setting yourself alight?
Well, falling in the water, and then because it looked like I was walking across water, and then
You mean you weren't? For 10 years I thought you walked on water. Then, the next thing I want to bring up is the bodysuit.
The bodysuit.
The never to be forgotten bodysuit.
Yeah, I think Edwin called it a funny green suit. Edwin Moses called it
A funny green suit. That's the technical term.
The technical term. And he studied biochemistry. So, but no, it was definitely something that helped me psychologically. I believed in the product. My sponsor at the time, they'd researched it and designed it, and it was inspired by speed skating, the sport of speed skating, and minimising the drag of which the body produces when running into a wind or around, in all conditions.
You didn't wear it that often, did you? I mean, you didn't wear it for years and years and years, did you?
No, it was the first time I'd worn it in a 400-metre event.
Right. Well, not the final. I mean, you'd worn it.
I had worn it in Newcastle in a 200-metre race.
But the first time you wore it at the Olympics was the final?
Yes.
Wow.
In a 400-metre race.
Gosh, so it must have seemed a bit different. I mean, that's unusual actually, Cathy, isn't it? Because normally you like to, athletes like to do the same thing, nothing can be different, and you decided to just put on a bodysuit for the final.
Well, I figured that I'd be so keyed up that I could have worn a hippopotamus suit. It wouldn't have made. I was that.
Yeah.
Sort of.
That would have been
ready.
If you'd actually come dressed as a hippo and won the Olympic title, that would have been sensational.
I was just trying to make a point.
Oh, I see. All right, thanks.
It would have been sensational if I looked like a hippopotamus.
So the final itself, no pressure.
The pressure for me was the pressure that I placed on myself. I think any competitor will tell you that the pressure that counts the most is the pressure that they put on themselves.
Sure. So you were able to, if you like, shut out the expectation from the rest of the world, and particularly Australia, because in a sense, the expectation from yourself was bigger anyway.
Absolutely. I wasn't prepared to lose. I wasn't even prepared to think about losing. It just would have really upset me.
Yeah.
I was too scared to think about losing. It was all win, and that's all that there was to it. And
Can you remember when you crossed the line and you realised you'd won? Can you sort of sum up the feelings? Because it wasn't just winning an Olympic title. It was everything around it as well.
It was. I remember being mid-air and knowing that I'd won, and saying to myself, so this is what it feels like to be an Olympic champion. And then I think I didn't realise how much it meant to so many people until I'd crossed the line and I sat down, and I was just, it was just an intense atmosphere, and so much emotion coming from the whole crowd, everybody there. I'm still trying to register it all. What
I admire about you, I admire about a lot of sports people, Muhammad Ali, is not just what they achieve on the track. And perhaps you'd like to talk about, your pride in what you've achieved, because, from the moment you ran around the track with the Aboriginal flag, I mean, a lot has changed. And I'm English, so I don't know all the ins and outs, but
sure.
It was just, and your upbringing and everything that you've lived through to get to that point. It was a little bit more to it than just simply winning the Olympic title.
A running race or an Olympic title. I think so many. There are different types of running commentary you'll get, depending on if you speak to an Indigenous elder or a sports minister, or the PM, the Prime Minister, or different leaders from different, whether it's religion or politics or the arts, or everybody felt unified at that one time, which was wonderful, because it was one of those really rare and special moments where we all felt together as one, and there was no point of difference between anyone at all in Australia, and I'm really proud to have been part of it all.
And when you run around the track with the Australian flag and the Aboriginal flag, didn't you? I mean, that was technically not allowed. I gather it was because it's not recognised as a flag by the IOC or whatever. But presumably nobody at any point said, "Oh, that's terrible, Cathy. You can't do that."
I think if I'd felt like I was jeopardising relations at all, I would have definitely, pulled back and look. So long as I'm there racing, it's what's most important. It's not about trying to change politics. But I always felt comfortable, because that nobody ever came to me and said, no, you cannot do this because, and again, I've always felt like the Australian Aboriginal flag was an accepted flag, and I got the sense that a lot of Australians accepted it, going on news polls and radio, all of the media outlets were, sort of having all of these sort of studies and showing this levels of support. So
now listen, 2012 London Olympics, okay?
Yes.
There's going to be a few people like Jessica Ennis, for example, who said that she wants to talk to you, or maybe she wants to talk to you about what's it like running at your home Olympics with expectation on your shoulders.
Sure.
I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, you've kind of answered it insofar as if the pressure's on yourself is more than anywhere else, but nevertheless, London, there'll be a lot of expectation on the British athletes. What do you say to them? What's your advice?
I think it's always driven by the purest intention of, doing it for that very same reason you started out with in the first instant. Example, I as a 5-year-old child did it because I loved it. It made me happy. It brought me great joy. And, whenever you see anybody doing something for the pure joy of it and the love of it, you really can't go wrong. And the kind of energy you draw is always positive and loving and nurturing and supportive, and if you stick to that golden rule, I think you can't go wrong. And if it's all from the heart, and keep it all really simple, stick to what has worked for you in the past, I think the nature kind of sorts itself out and the order falls into place.
Okay. So. Final question, and it's a tough one, Cathy. It's a tough one. Do you think if you'd worn that hippo suit, you would have gone even faster? Is that one of your regrets in life?
It would depend on the colour, I think.
Yeah?
So long as it was an Australian, if I as the hippopotamus was wearing the Australian uniform and still allowed to fly the Indigenous flag, I think I still would have won. So Probably would have run faster, actually.
That's a world exclusive. Thank you.
Thank you.